The new ease of travel within Europe has opened up opportunities for the more intrepid carp fishermen. As we trace our steps to Calais and through France, well, after all the efforts we've put in this week, and it's easy, passing fondly remembered past conquests, travelling to a new destination, and this time, even a new country. This beautiful lake is at Mantova in Italy, where we will give you a basic guide to all aspects of carp fishing, and of course, the result of our endeavours, the carp. The lake, known as Inferiore, the Italian word for low level, we trust will be anything but. When arriving at big waters like this, the first thing to do is to locate the fish. And you can do this in two ways. You can speak to the locals and find out where most of the carp get caught. You can also find out how heavily stocked the water is as well. But the most important is to go looking for fish yourself. Now, we have a very large water here at Mantova. The River Mincio is dammed, and there's 3 very large lakes, totalling several thousand acres. Some waters like this are heavily stocked and some are not. So the first thing I would do is to drive around the lakes, stopping wherever I can for a few minutes at each place, looking for signs of fish. By signs of fish, I mean fish jumping, bubbling, bow waving, any signs at all, as long as you're happy that they are carp and not other species. If there's no signs of fish jumping, I would spend more time in the windy areas. If there's a wind blowing on the water, go to where it's most windy and see how you feel about it. Sometimes when you can't see fish at all, it's down to feelings. And you can stand at a place and say, yes, I think this is a good place, or vice versa. Now, I've had a good look round, looked at all the 3 lakes. There's very few fish moving. By fish I mean carp. There's lots of black bass and other small fish rolling. And what I've done is I've spoken to the locals, and there's a couple of carp anglers just down the bank from here. And it's obvious that this lake is very heavily stocked. There is thousands of carp in here. So we don't have a problem with location of fish. I think the best thing we can do in this case is to fish an area where we know, from what we've been told, that carp are caught regularly. So in this particular instance it's been made easy for us, but we could have easily arrived here. There might not be many carp in the lake and the locals can't help, and then it is down to sheer hard work and experimenting. But for now we're going to go to a chosen spot where the locals advise us to go, and where we know there will be carp. Choice of tackle is very important. I'm fortunate in that I can afford new, good quality gear, but if you've got old equipment, then it needs to be well maintained when travelling long distances, fishing waters like this for long sessions. It's perhaps best if I go to the swim to show you what I'm using, and by doing this I can carry on fishing. Let's have a look. With all the equipment, the most important thing is that everything's got to be reliable. Buzzers. I use the Fox Micron SXs. They're very reliable. They're nice and loud, which is important, especially when you're perhaps trying to sleep at night or something. They've got sensitivity adjustment and an LED to warn you which rod has got the bite on it, obviously. I always bring a spare buzzer with me, so I've got 4. I keep one in the kit bag. You never know when something's going to go wrong. Moving on to indicators, these are Fox swingers. You can use hangers and springers. What I like about these is they've got an adjustable weight. You can slide it up or down, and they register drop backs very good. And when fishing these big waters, at often long distances, you do get a lot of drop back bites. So you need the swinger high up so it can show a fish that may pick up your lead and swim towards you. So good quality indicators. Moving on to the reels, now these are very important. Obviously they've got to be reliable and in good condition. They've got to hold a lot of line, a minimum of 250 metres, preferably 350 metres. I do actually carry some larger reels if I'm actually going to row the baits out very long distance. These are Shimano 8010 bait runners with a double handle, lovely reel. As you can see, it's a very wide spool, they hold a lot of line. It's got a bait runner facility, which is ideal for this sort of fishing. You can fish with the bail arm closed and have the bait runner on, and all you need to do, flick of the handle, and you're in normal mode for playing the fish. Rod rests are very important. Mine are stainless steel. You often come across rocky ground like this, so they have to be very good quality. Also the buzzer bars for the back and front, I prefer stainless steel once again, a bit heavy to carry, but you do need the quality. And I'm also using these at the end here, Fox rod clamps. When I don't need to use them, I just leave them like they are now with the rod resting on top. But there's times when your rod is likely to get dragged into the lake, then you push them down into the rod clamp, nice and securely. Moving on to the rods, now obviously these are my favourites. Shimano Diaflash 13 foot, 3 pound test curve. And what's particularly good about these rods is they're not only good for very long distance casting, but they're also very good for close range fishing. So I get a lot of pleasure out of using these rods at all distances. Apart from that, as I said earlier, everything needs to be in very good condition. If you can't afford new modern gear like I do, then just make sure everything's maintained properly. Bring spare things like spare reel, spare buzzer, even the odd indicator. Plenty of line. I usually carry 9 spools, so it's 3 spools of different breaking strain lines, because you never know what you're going to encounter when you arrive at a lake like this. And that's basically it. Rigs need to be kept simple, and by that I mean they need to be strong and tangle free. Now if you're using nylon hook links, you don't need all the tubing, but if like me you're using the Christon range of products, Silkworm, Merlin, Quicksilver, etc., you do need tubing up the line. Now I've got a couple of basic rigs here to show you. This is the tadpole rig setup, which is basically a fixed lead. You can see that there's some thin tubing up the main line here, and that is to stop the hook link from tangling around the main line, because these super new hook links, they are prone to tangles, so you need a tubing up the line to stop the tangles. That's all the tubing is for. You can see from these tadpole setups that there's a piece of steel coming out of the lead, especially made, fixed lead, and it's a helicopter setup. By that it means that this hook link goes through the air spinning rather like a helicopter, and it doesn't tangle. So that's the tadpole type fixed lead setup. If you don't want to use that, you can just use this very simple arrangement where you have some soft tubing up the line. Again, like the other setup, it needs to be longer than the hook link. If you look at this, you'll see that that tubing is longer than the hook link. If it was shorter, then it would get tangled in on the cast. Now, hook link materials, a good standard hook link material is the cast-on silkworm. It's very good in practically all situations. It's available in different breaking strains, and I'm using this at the moment. Now, on the second video in this series, we will show you many more types of lines and their applications. For the hair rig, I use two methods, and you can see here I've put some 1mm tubing onto the hook, which is quite a snug fit, and I've tied the hair to that tubing, and I can move that tubing around the hook wherever I want the hair to come off of it. I can have it coming off at the top here, or I can have it coming off at the bottom. Where that is now is one of my favourite positions, and this is quite a strong hair on this one. The length varies for two reasons, depending on the size and amount of boilies, and this one is tied so that it can take two 20mm boilies. And the other reason is you need to experiment with the distance that the bait is away from the hook, but 1/4 of an inch away from the hook is a good starting point if you're not sure, and then you can change positions, change length of hair as you start fishing and you learn more about it. So, but basically this is a good start. Have the hair coming off at the bottom of the shank. Now this one is the length, I've judged the length there for 1 20mm boilie, so I'll put the boilie on there. All you need is a needle, baiting needle. Just push it through the boilie, and you'll see there is a small barb on this needle, and you just put the loop over there, and the barb stops the hair sliding off. You push the bait on to the hair, like so. Now all you need to do now is to put a boilie stop through that loop in the hair. The little plastic boilie stops, you can get them from all fishing tackle shops. Now I'll put that in there, and just pull the hair back until the boilie stop is tight against the boilie. Now you can leave it like that. I prefer to just push that into the boilie slightly so that it's nice and smooth and the fish doesn't feel any sharp objects. Now you can see that is about 1/4 of an inch from the hook, and that's a good distance to start, but you need to experiment. You might find on some fisheries at certain times a shorter hair is better, and other times a longer hair is better. As far as hooks are concerned, everybody has their favourite, and mine are the Partridge Z15 boilie carp hooks. I use size 4 for 20mm boilies and size 6 for 15mm boilies. Well, it's 35 degrees C in the sun here now, and not only are the baits boiling, but I'm boiling too, so I think we'll take this opportunity to go somewhere in the shade and have a much closer look at the baits. Boilies, you've got two choices. You can buy ready-mades or you can make your own. Ready-mades come in lots of different sizes, 10mm, 15mm, 20mm. And really what you're looking for in a boilie is a good hard texture, nice shape, and a good smell and taste. Now these are very hard and very good for fishing big waters for big fish. The boilies come in different pack sizes, 200 grams, 1 kilo, 5 kilo, 10 kilo. Also, there's pop-ups that are ready-made, and this saves a lot of problems if you don't like making your own pop-ups. You can buy them as they are. The other choice, as I say, is making your own baits, and there's lots of base mixes on the market like these here, and flavours and enhancers, stimulators, colours, etc. If you're going abroad and fishing big waters and you're making your own bait, you will need to preserve it, and there are preservers on the market now, liquid preservers and powder preservers like this one. Otherwise, if you don't preserve them, you'll find that a few days in a hot temperature they will start to go mouldy. So, for me, going abroad, and for a lot of other people, ready-mades is the answer. They won't go mouldy after being in the hot temperatures. You can afford to take too many with you because you can bring them back again and take them next time you go. And obviously these very big 5, 10, 15 kilo bags are the most economical way of buying them. So this is what's for me, 20mm ready-mades for big fish on big waters. Feature finding. As soon as I pick to swim, the first thing I want to know is what is out there. And usually I just tie a lead to the end of the line, very slowly drag back, making several casts in different directions, and it will give you an idea of what's out there. Sometimes you'll find nothing, it'll just be a flat bottom, no features at all. Other times you'll find a gully and a gravel bar, and it looks like we've just found a gully because the lead came along the bottom easily, and then the rod tip bent round and it was harder to drag back, and then there was some knocking on the rod tip. Now that means that there is some sort of gravel bar out there. Any features like that are a good place to catch carp. Now that might not be a gravel bar, it might just be a hump. And it might not necessarily be gravel, it might just have changed from soft silt to firm clay or something like that, but it's a feature. It's features we need. Now obviously if this swim was very, very snaggy, we couldn't do this, and we'd just have to bait up 2 or 3 spots and fish them, but there doesn't appear to be any snags out here. Right, I think I'll recast and just check that. That's really good news to find a spot so quickly. Once I've checked where it is, I'll put a marker float on and then make sure the marker is right on top of the feature, which we'll do in a moment. Have another cast. Same direction. Let's just check that. At the moment it's just coming back nice and easy, so it's just coming through what is probably a little bit of soft silt on firmer clay. It's coming back, it's dead flat bottom. Of course we don't know how deep it is out there by doing this, but this is just for feature finding. It's coming back steady still at the moment. Right, yes, we're getting up to the feature again now. The rod tip is going round and there's a bit of knocking. Yeah. Now that should be a good spot to fish. And what I'd do is cast each side of it just to see if it's a bar or just a hump of some sort. Now coming in closer, there's nothing much else there. I would say that feature's probably about 50 yards out. Lovely distance to fish. You can bait accurately at that distance. And you don't have to be so quiet on the bank. Right, nothing else closer. So I think what I'll do is I'll get the marker float. We'll put that on the line. And then we can see exactly where it is. Right, just put the marker float out. Now that's beyond the bar. And I'll just drag it along at first because I want that float up against the lead. We're well the other side of the feature at the moment. Right, so what I want to do is I want to measure the depth the other side of the feature first. Now I know at the moment, because I've dragged it back, that the float is by the lead. Now I'm just going to pay out line to see how deep it is, and we'll watch the surface for the float coming up. These are about ½ metre lengths, half a yard. So that's 3, 4, 5. Right, the float's come up at about 5. So that's approximately, say, 3 yards, 3 metres deep, the other side of the feature. So I'm now going to drag back to find the feature, which will put the float against the lead again. And just keep dragging back till we find that feature. Should be coming up any time now. Right, here it comes. It's coming up the slope, and there's a bit of knocking there. Right, now I want to see what depth it is on top. It might only be slightly different, it might be a big difference. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, and the float's come up. So that's just very slightly deeper, slightly shallower, not much in it at all really. So there's just a very slight slope, and we're on top of the feature. So I'll now leave the float there, and what we can do, we can put some bait around it and actually cast to it, and then retrieve the marker float afterwards. Right, as it's our first day on the water, I'm not going to put too much bait out. We don't know what to expect at the moment, and over baiting is a very easy thing to do, and it will stop you catching fish. Better to underbait, and you can always put some more out later. Once you've got a lot out there, you can't really get rid of it. Using a throwing stick takes a lot of practice, and you can't always drop all the baits in one spot. Sometimes the catapult is more accurate. What I'll do is I'll put, these are 20mm boilies, and I'll put about 50 out here, and I'll cast out a rig with 2 20mm boilies on it. I think this is Honey Nectar flavour. Good reliable bait. Always use a bait that you know catches fish. You don't want to be sitting behind your rods wondering if the problem is bait. I'll just put out a few more. And then we'll go and get the rod and cast out. There's no need to use a stringer on this setup, because I know I've got lots of free offerings around the hook bait. But that seems to be the only feature in the swim, so the other rods are going to have stringers on, because when you're casting them into the middle of nowhere, it's nice to know you've got 1 or 2 free offerings right next to the hook. Right, another 2 baits and that will do us. Go and get the rod. The important thing here is to drop the hook bait just this side of the marker. And so for accurate casting, you want to do an overhead cast, and here we go. Now that's about 18 inches this side of the float, which I would say is perfect. We've got bait in that area, and we'll leave that there. We'll put the rod back on the rod rest. Now we know we're on a feature. We know we've got ground bait exactly on that feature, and then we now know we've got a hook bait on it. we can't lose. Making a stringer is very simple and well worth the effort. The best on the market is the Christen Meltdown. This dissolves in about 30 to 60 seconds in warm water, and in very cold water takes about 4 minutes in the winter time. Right, so we'll just quickly run through. We'll take a length of the Meltdown, and we'll use a long stringer needle. You can use a shorter one obviously, but you can only put 1 or 2 on at a time otherwise. Now, using stringers cuts down your casting distance, so if you're fishing long range, you don't want to put too many baits on the stringer, only maybe perhaps 3. But as we're fishing medium distance, I'm going to put 5 on this stringer, like so. Now I'm going to pull the Meltdown through the baits using the needle, and I'm going to double it up like this. All we have to do is push the baits onto the Meltdown, like so. And the next stage is very important. You see now there's a loop there. We put that over the hook, and we push the first bait up, but you must always leave a gap here for the water to attack the PVA. If you don't, it's possible that that might not melt. And leave a gap between every boilie so that the water can attack the PVA. So we'll just move those along a bit. Now you can see there's a gap between each boilie, so that will melt very easily. It's not necessary, but if you trim the end off, it will help the casting distance. You don't have to tie a knot at the end, that will stay on there nicely. And that gives you some free offerings when that melts right alongside your hook bait. Better off with the weight sling wet, but I can't go back down and wet it, so I'll have to put it in the dry sling. Lovely. Let's get it back.
Una bellissima carpa comune.
Onto the unhooking mat.
La posizioniamo direttamente sul materassino.
Maybe 5 kilos.
Si aggira probabilmente sui 5 kg.
The fish has a badly damaged mouth.
Come vedete la bocca è molto danneggiata.
From previous capture.
Probabilmente qualche pescatore incauto non ha prestato la minima attenzione nello slamare il pesce.
It is also damaged on the other side here.
Il pesce è molto danneggiato, infatti mancano delle squame, manca un po' di pelle.
An unhooking mat stops all this damage. You must always use an unhooking mat.
Utilizzando il materassino evita tutti questi problemi, poi un po' di cura in ogni caso è sempre utile per non rovinare questi bellissimi pesci.
Okay, I will put some antiseptic Klin-ik on the fish.
Adesso vediamo di curare un po' queste ferite con il Klin-ik della Keystone.
Right. There we are. Right, we must put some Klin-ik on the fish. It's antibacterial solution.
Questa è una soluzione antibatterica prodotta dalla Keystone, la posizioniamo esattamente sulle ferite.
Otherwise, where the fish is damaged, it will get fungus and it will get diseased.
Se non curiamo le ferite c'è il rischio che si formino dei funghi e il pesce dopo breve tempo muoia.
I would guess that the fish has been played very, very hard. The fish has not been played properly, and maybe this has caused the tearing of the flesh in the mouth.
Probabilmente queste ferite si sono generate da un eccessivo tirare, un'eccessiva foga di portare il pesce al guadino. Infatti la bocca risulta proprio strappata.
Just do this side as well.
È meglio cercare di coprire tutte le zone danneggiate.
This maybe has happened with just one capture. Somebody has put the fish on the ground and it has jumped. You have to remember that a fish like this may be caught 10 times a year, so we have to look after them.
Probabilmente questo è successo con una sola cattura. Il pescatore incauto l'ha posizionato sul terreno e si è subito danneggiato. Un pesce di questo tipo può essere catturato 10-15 volte all'anno, sempre che si presti la massima attenzione. Basta una sola cattura per ucciderlo.
I think the best thing now is to put it back.
La miglior cosa adesso è di cercare di rilasciarlo, sperando che si rimarginino subito le ferite.
Back into the waist sling.
Lo rimettiamo nel sacco per trasportarlo al lago.
Ok.
Perfetto. Eccola finalmente. C'è. Sembra bellina anche. Un po' la frizione. Molto lontana. Tirano molto forte adesso. Pieno agosto. Col caldo. Quasi fuori 100 metri di distanza. dragando il fondo. Ecco che si sta stancando lentamente. Bellissima, tirano veramente bene. Un po' la frizione che la facciamo venire dentro, se no. Molto importante non tirare troppo in queste situazioni, perché la bocca del pesce è sempre delicata. Questi ami sono talmente affilati che tagliano la bocca proprio del pesce. Sempre molta pazienza nel tirarla su, nessuno ci corre dietro. Penso sia molto grossa perché sta venendo qua molto facilmente, però dà delle belle testate. Incredibile come cambiano la potenza rispetto al mese di maggio. C'è un po' di forza laterale anche se si sta avvicinando agli altri fili. Adesso è a quasi 50-60 metri di distanza, fa molto caldo, strano vederle abboccate a quest'ora. Adesso non lotta quasi più.
Bravo!
Grazie. Yeah.
Yeah, good. Ok.
Fra un po' preparo il guadino, ecco come lo passa Kevin. Fagli un po' di forza laterale che è sopra gli altri fili. Mi rafforzo un pelino adesso, viene fuori un macello. Eccola qua. Siamo quasi, inizio a vedere il quicksilver, vuol dire che è a portata di guadino quasi.
You okay?
Yeah. Perfetto. È sempre meglio fare le cose da soli, perché se per caso il pesce si slama vicino a riva e qualcuno ha sbagliato a guadinare, è meglio che sia colpa del pescatore e non di qualcun altro.
I get the weigh bag and scales, everything.
Ok.
Okay?
Kevin intanto va a prendere il materassino e la bilancia, così almeno la pesiamo subito. Con questo caldo qua. Perfetto. E infatti non è molto grossa. 7-8 kg. Prendiamo il guadino. Che bella. Posizioniamo sul materassino della Fox in modo che non si danneggi. Ecco che arriva Kevin. Apriamo il guadino. Poi bisogna prestare la massima attenzione a non danneggiare il pesce, è una cosa molto importante, rispettare le nostre belle carpe che si possono ricatturare tante altre volte durante un anno. Vediamo la montatura.
Ok.
Come vedete il pesce è in perfette condizioni, non gli manca nemmeno una squama. La bocca non è danneggiata, parte un po', molto poco. Adesso togliamo
Very good.
il guadino
You weigh?
e la pesiamo.
Yeah.
Ok. Questo è il nuovo sacco per la pesatura della Fox, che è molto comodo perché riesce a contenere anche l'acqua. Sono giusto a 0. Ok.
Yeah. I hold and you can read.
Ok, vediamo subito. Sono 8 kg esatti. Non è un pesce gigantesco, però è un bel divertimento in questa stagione. Perfetto. Ok.
Good. In England we say common carp.
In Inghilterra infatti spiega che è una carpa comune,
Yeah. Lovely.
molto bella.
Can we have a look at the other side? Yeah.
Guardiamo l'altro lato per vedere com'è.
It's very long.
Molto lunga, non è una carpa, in Inghilterra sono ovviamente più corte e più tozze. Perfetta, molto bella.
Excellent.
Adesso la
Ok.
lasciamo andare. Ok. Perfetto, adesso che l'abbiamo pesata la rilasciamo con molta attenzione. È importante fare tutto con estrema cautela. Rilasciare i pesci così, effettuare il catch and release è una cosa fondamentale di questa tecnica. Un pesce come questo lo possiamo catturare numerose volte, se però lo uccidiamo oggi uccidiamo anche il nostro sport preferito. Una bella carpa di 8 kg nel giro di un paio di anni passa sicuramente i 10-12. Pesce stupendo, curatelo con la massima attenzione. Pesci così non si prendono tutti i giorni, non sono comuni. Assicuratevi sempre di rilasciarli, è meglio rilasciare un pesce che ammazzarlo, c'è molta più soddisfazione. Assicuratevi che sia ben ossigenato. Siete sicuri che nuoti? Perfetto. Come va via.
Good. Yes. It's a common. Good one too. If we can get it over these rocks, we'll have a look at it. Making care not to damage it too much. Oh yes, a good fish. Oh. Might be my first Italian 20. Certainly feels like it. God, it's 37 or 38 degrees and we're still feeding. Lovely. Double honey nectar. Good old faithful. Right, let's see what it weighs. Fortunately, I've got some water here to make sure that everything's wet. It's so hot, it's unbelievable. Even our Italian friends are telling us it's too hot and they're running for the shade. Let's see what it weighs. Let the water run out. Let's see what it weighs. Yes, my first Italian 20 and just about 20. Yep. Let's have a look at this side. Kilos this side, pounds your side. Just over 20. Let's have a look at the fish. It's a little bit red down there. You can see it's been eating lots of food. Long, lean, common. In fact, it's got a very strange tail. I can see from here there's a little bit growing out further than the rest. Never seen that before. Very rare. Very strange. Still, we're not complaining. Let's have a look at the other side. Gently does it. Yeah. It's certainly behaving itself. It wasn't as placid as this when we were playing it. There you go. Lovely. And believe me, it's hot. Okay, I think we better put it back because of the sun and the heat. Lovely. Right, let's see if we can get it back without hurting it. Couldn't pick a worse bank. Unfortunately, it's all rocks around here. Right. Anyway, we've caught some lovely fish and we've met some good Italian anglers. Very friendly and helpful. And it's time now for us to leave this water at Mantova and go to a lake up north where there are much bigger fish. This is typical of the fish in this lake. Lots of long, thin, lean commons. I'll put it straight back because it could well jump out of my hands. They're very lively. So back it goes. Thank you, Carp.